Hello and welcome to my first ever rankings video for the YouTube channel. This is where I'm going to be doing rankings from all different things to do with wrestling over the next couple of months, maybe if it takes off longer. So I'll be ranking different things from Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, Impact, all the big companies, New Japan. But I thought I'd start with us being in Wrestlemania, on the way to Wrestlemania now. It used to be a massive spectacle. I mean, I suppose it still is if you're a big die-hard WWE fan. It's the biggest thing in the year. Myself personally, it's not as big as it used to be. I think last year I only watched the Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes match in the whole of the pay-per-view, which is disappointing. They're just not putting on the quality of matches that I enjoy anymore. I did watch the Royal Rumble pay-per-view recently. I'll always watch a Royal Rumble. I will do a rankings of Royal Rumble at some point. But I've gone with The Undertaker at Wrestlemania, because when you think of Wrestlemania, you think of The Undertaker. You know, he went 21 undefeated straight victories at Wrestlemania until he lost, and then he ended up on a 25-2. So we had 27 matches. I think he only missed 3 Wrestlemanias he missed. He missed 2 due to injury, and then 1 where he was or wasn't booked and did or didn't fly in. I can't remember what the shenanigans was with that one. But yeah, so anyway, I'm going to go through from number 27 being the worst to number 1 being the best, and just let you know my thoughts. So obviously to make sure that it's fair and that I've remembered everything from each and every match, I've gone back over the last 2 days and watched all 27 matches of The Undertaker at Wrestlemania. It sounds good. I mean, when you remember the good matches, it does sound good, but there was a lot of poor in there, unfortunately. But it was just lucky that there's more good matches than there is bad matches. But anyway, I'll go through from 27 to 1, and then at the end, feel free to leave me a comment and let me know what your rankings is for The Undertaker's matches at Wrestlemania yourself. Maybe they're the same, maybe they're different. I mean, there's probably videos already out here of The Undertaker's matches at WrestleMania ranking them. I haven't gone looking for them because I'm not bothered. I'm just keeping it opinionated to myself, and I'll give you a little reason why. Obviously, certain matches are in certain places, but I don't like. I started making little notes, per the matches when I was watching them, and thought, hang on, this video is going to end up being about 2 hours long. So I thought, do you know what? I'll rank them and I'll wing it, and we'll see how we get on, because I thought otherwise each match is going to get a mini review and you'll be here till next July. So we'll start with number 27, which I can't imagine anyone else's list will say anything different than number 27 being the Giant Gonzalez at WrestleMania 9. What an absolute terrible match that was. If you can call it a match, it was just a mess, wasn't it? Like, Giant Gonzalez makes Omos and Great Khali look absolutely superb, but it was just awful. And then the fact that they used the chloroform rag for the disqualification was just so bad. And then obviously Undertaker gets ejected, Gong comes back out, lays out Gonzalez. It was just a mess. I mean, the early matches for me were quick and gimmick based. I get it, because that's what they were trying to do at the time. But obviously, if you're going back and you're watching all 27 matches, then like the short gimmick-based matches are not going to be the best, especially compared to some of the matches he had later on in his career. But number 27, Giant Gonzalez, what were you thinking? Number 26, I've gone for King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 11. The main reason for this one being number 26 is, again, gimmick shenanigans. You know, Carmen runs down, grabs the urn, buggers off, and then, you know, Bundy goes and takes hold of the match. The match must be about 8-9 minutes, something like that. Puts him in the sleeper hold, and considering the match is only short, that sleeper hold seemed like it was on forever. But he was just like that. He didn't seem to put any work into it, like, you know what I mean? He just literally just held him like that for a couple of minutes. And then we get in the corner, Undertaker does a boot, comes out of the corner, does a body slam, hits the ropes, lariat, pins him off a lariat, 1, 2, 3. Like, if you can't get him off of the tombstone or like choke slam, like, people jump for that. Whether he was doing the chokeslam back then, I can't remember. But anyway, tombstone. If you can't tombstone him, fine. You've just body slammed him. No, pin him off a body slam. You've pinned him off a lariat. Like that has to, like that. If the whole Gonzalez thing with the chloroform rag wasn't there, then this would have been the worst. Like pinning someone off a lariat is just unreal. Move on to number 25, Big Boss Man, Hell in a Cell. It's funny because I always liked Big Boss Man. He was never brilliant in that, but I liked his gimmick back in the day with the blue shirt and that. I did like him. He's one of the main reasons I actually got into wrestling, which is weird and strange to say. He's probably my first actual favourite wrestler. But anyway, when they brought him back and he was in the black gear and he was part of like the corporation or what it was at the time, it was just it wasn't good, was it? But this Hell in a Cell match has got to be one of the worst Hell in a Cell matches in history. It was boring. It was boring. It was like he handcuffed Undertaker to the cell and then hit him once, and the next thing is the handcuffs have snapped off. So it's one of the worst handcuffs in history. Probably them ones that you get from Poundland that just snap open. That these the plastic ones for your kids. It was crap. It was just poor. Like the crowd was dead. Like honest to God, the crowd was so bad. And then obviously Undertaker gets the win, and then the next thing is we get the Brood. I think they were part of the ministry then. The Brood coming down from the top, and then coming down after the pinfall, and then they're messing around. It's like, what are you doing? They're feeding this rope through, and then he hangs the Big Boss Man. And it was just bad. It was bad. It was poor. Anyway, so that's number 25. I'd say probably the worst. If you know worst Hell in a Cell match, and don't say Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, because yes, it was a bad finish, but come on, like there was still decent moves and stuff in the match. It was a bad DQ finish. It wasn't the best, but like Boss Man's got to be worse, surely. Number 24, Jimmy Snuka. Not much to say about this. Pretty simple squash match for a debut for The Undertaker. WrestleMania 7 it was his first WrestleMania, and everything that you needed it to be for Undertaker debut, especially with that type of gimmick. Just a quick, easy squash match. Speaking of squash matches, number 23. Yeah, 23, John Cena. Like, honest to God, I had so much high hopes for this. Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania. Yes, love it. Love every bit about it. The build-up was brilliant. Done really well with the build-up, you know. John Cena calling out Undertaker, and Undertaker, was he going to respond? It was everywhere, you know, there was tweets out, there was Facebook polls and everything. Will the Undertaker show at WrestleMania? It was done so well. Then when he didn't get the answer, he turned up as a fan, bought a ticket, went and sat in the crowd. I remember seeing lives all over the internet of people recording as John Cena's coming through with the cameras and that, and then he's sitting there in the crowd, and it done so well. He was there in jeans and the top, you know, not his jorts, his actual pair of jeans and the top and that, and he looked like he was there for the day. And like throughout the matches and stuff leading up to this, obviously he was there, and he kept going to Cena, and he's like, oh, it was a good match. Like the build up was really good. And then he gets word, oh yeah, Undertaker's coming. I think they've done a thing with Elias, you know, I skipped that only because I'm watching 27 matches. I couldn't watch the build up and the after of each and every match, but I remember something to do with Elias was thrown in there. But Cena gets weird, runs to the back, gets changed. Changes his t-shirt and puts a pair of shorts on, 2 minutes, runs down. Obviously Undertaker then appears, and it's about a 3-4 minute squash match. Undertaker just comes out the gates hot, hits him with pretty much every one of his moves that he can, you know, old school, chokeslam, tombstone. Even when Cena tries to do a little comeback, he drops him and goes for the 5-knuckle shuffle, bounces off the ropes, Undertaker sits up, and that's it, one tombstone pin. I mean, if you think about the amount of matches Undertaker's had where people have kicked out the tombstone, the WrestleMania alone, like going through, and like Sale was making little notes, and it was like tombstone, kick out, that sort of stuff, and you know, he just ate one tombstone, that was it, see you later, bye John. It's like, for all that build up, it was a really poor match. It wasn't as bad as some of the others on the list, but like, you know, what can you do with like a 4-minute match? Not a lot. Number 22, Jake the Snake. decent enough match, better than his first match. So this was his second WrestleMania, which was obviously better than the Jimmy Snuka one. Again, you know, Jake gets the upper hand, drops him with a DDT, drops him with a second DDT, doesn't go for the pin, goes after Paul Bearer with the end, and it's like, what are you doing, mate? So instead of going and getting a pin, he just goes after Paul Bearer. It's all gimmick based again, isn't it? But I mean, at the time, probably worked really well. Like early 90s, like 91, 92. Like I was only born 91, so I wasn't watching it at the time. So even then, as a kid watching it back, it was still a bit cringe, but it was more character and gimmick based back then. But he just goes after Paul Bearer after dropping him with his finisher twice. Goes after Paul Bearer. It's like, what are you doing, mate? Just pin him. So anyway, he goes outside the ring. Undertaker follows him out, drops him with a tombstone outside, slides him in, pins him. I mean, he could have easily dropped him with another move outside, brought him in, tombstone, and then pinned him, and it'd have been a bit better. But nevertheless, it wasn't that bad, and it finds its way as number 22 on my list. Number 21, Big Show and A-Train at WrestleMania 19. Supposed to be a tag match with Undertaker and Nathan Jones. Why they even thought that would be a thing, to be honest. I know they ended up where Nathan Jones gets taken out and then it's Big Show and A-Train in a handicap match against Undertaker. Like, why is that a match at WrestleMania? Like, a tag match or a handicap match, it's just not really an attraction. I wouldn't have that at WrestleMania at all. Maybe a No Way Out or something, or a Backlash, but not at WrestleMania. But anyway, like, it is what it is. It was a match, it was decent, you know. You had Undertaker obviously starting strong, taking on A-Train and Big Show both at the same time, showing that he didn't need a tag team partner. Then obviously they get the upper hand. We get Big Show drops him with a chokeslam. Nathan Jones appears on the ramp. Undertaker obviously goes down. Big Show obviously runs down, eats a spin kick. Then he gets in the ring, boots down A-Train, and then Undertaker gets the win. And I don't remember the handicap being announced as a no DQ. So, I mean, effectively, yes, it was supposed to be a tag match, and then it got changed to a handicap. So, why then, when Nathan Jones then attacked them and they get the DQ, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I suppose if I looked into it properly and not just watched the actual match, I probably would find out what the idea was, why the Undertaker didn't and get a disqualification, because obviously the match had started as a handicap. But it was decent enough. It wasn't the worst match of Undertaker's WrestleMania career. It was just more, why was it a thing? I'd rather have just seen Big Show versus Undertaker than Big Show and A-Train versus Undertaker. It didn't make sense to me. Nevertheless, he got a win over Big Show and A-Train at WrestleMania 19. Number 20, and it might shock a few people, but it's Roman Reigns. As good as Roman can be, when he's allowed to be, you know, he was good in the Shield, and then he started to be good on his own, and he decided to try and ram down your throat and stuff like that, and then he was doing the whole this smart yard, and that's obviously why he faced the Undertaker at WrestleMania, because it's like, well, it's smart yard now. What a stupid premise for a match. But nevertheless, like, to have a young lad coming up and who's they want to be the face of the company, then get a win over the Undertaker at WrestleMania, yeah, fine, I'm happy with that. Like, it makes more sense than Brock Lesnar winning, to myself personally. But the match was poor. Like, it was terrible. Like, Undertaker was just not up to the standard of that match at all. Roman Reigns is trying to drag him across the finish line, and the fact that the match dragged out like 20 plus minutes, mate, I think it was past 25 minutes even, is beyond me. Like, Undertaker couldn't do what was needed in that match, or what they originally planned to do. It was evident quite early on that Undertaker weren't going to be able to do that. So yeah, obviously it was sad, because, you know, Undertaker at WrestleMania is a big thing, and, you know, he's had a massive career, and obviously this was originally supposed to be his last ever match, where he put the hat and the cape and the boots in the ring and all that, and it was a brilliant end. Like, he's lost to a new upcomer, you know, passed the torch, if you like, and then he'd done that, and like, that picture went round everywhere, you know, Undertaker's retired. He never officially announced it, did he? But everyone was like, oh, that's it, Undertaker's retired, blah blah. But like, I think if the match was good, that would have been it. Like, as we seen on the Last Ride documentary, he did say, like, you know, he wasn't happy with the match, and every time he wasn't happy with a match, it made him want to come out and do another match, which unfortunately then led to a couple of matches that were of poor standard, before he finally got the match where he was happy with leaving his career with. But yeah, so for me, it's got to be Roman Reigns at number 20, WrestleMania 33. And do you know what? For the stick Roman gets, Roman carried the Undertaker in that match. So it's not Roman's fault, and it's nothing to do with the outcome either of Roman going over the Undertaker, because we'd already had the streak beaten, so it didn't make no difference. But it was just poor. It was not good to watch. Number 19, Psycho Sid's WrestleMania 13. It was decent enough. Two big men going on it, you know, back and forth. We had that mess at the beginning, didn't we, where Bret Hart was out whinging and whining, as Bret Hart likes to do. And then he then comes down and interferes with the end of the match, and, you know, effectively costs Sid the match, and, you know, costs him the title. Undertaker ends up winning the title, which is his first title match at WrestleMania, actually. So it was good in what it was, but just, I know they were going to go somewhere with Bret Hart and Sid, but do it after the match. Like, Undertaker doesn't need help to win a match, and it just, for me, put a dampener on the whole thing. I think it could have been better if they hadn't done it that way, but nevertheless, that's the way they went. Number 18, Kane, WrestleMania 20, one of my favourite WrestleManias, probably my favourite WrestleMania. Absolutely love WrestleMania 20. But this match comes at number 18 because it's not a very long match. The build-up was quite good, you know. Obviously, it was after Kane had helped Vince win the Buried Alive match, buried the Undertaker alive. Then you had the whole thing of Undertaker coming back from the dead, you know, with the Royal Rumble and, you know, the ring being lifted and stuff like that. And then we didn't know if the Undertaker would actually come back. Obviously, we knew, but we didn't know whether the Undertaker would come back to face his brother Kane at WrestleMania to seek vengeance on him. And, you know, all you can do is, because they've already faced at WrestleMania, you can only compare the two together, because that's what you do, isn't it? Like, every match that you have between two people, you compare them against the last time they faced. And again, it was another short match. It was like 8-9 minutes, maybe 10 most. And there wasn't really much feel to the match. It was okay in what it was. You know, we got the return of Paul Bearer, which was always good. But I think because he'd been the American Badass for a couple of years, and then you were going back to the Dead Man for the first match back as the Dead Man, it didn't really grab you. Like, it did everything it needed to do, you know, put Undertaker over, put him over quite quick. But for the build-up that they'd done from, what was it, like Survivor Series, I think the match could have been a lot better. And Kane's got matches in him, like, and I know Kane doesn't get as much recognition as he should, but Kane has got decent matches in him, especially with the Undertaker. Like, even going from, because this was 2004, you go all the way to 2010, when Kane finally got that run with the world title, and they had back and forth matches, and they put Kane over a couple of times over the Undertaker, which was about time. Because I'm a big Kane fan. I like Kane. And he finally done that then, but I feel like this match, it just seems to be like, oh, Kane was too scared. Like, he's supposed to be the big red monster. Yes, his brother's come back from the dead and we're supposed to believe all that, but it's like, for him to start the match and he's like, you're not real, oh shit, he punched me. Yeah, just, like, again, not as good as it could have been. Not as good as other matches on this. Going with number 17, Bray Wyatt, WrestleMania 31. I'm a big fan of Bray's. Not recently, since his return, I think he's been poor. I think his creativity mind's just gone. All this Uncle Howie stuff and that is terrible. But anyway, going on to this was at the time of, what was it, the Face of Fear, Eater of Worlds. You know, top game, Bray Wyatt's the best I think he's been in WWE. And so if they'd had Bray face Taker and beat Taker, like, if he'd have beat the Streak, that makes sense, because that's sort of a dark entity, and, you know, like, Bray's massive into his character, so is the Undertaker. So, like, a Bray Wyatt beating the Undertaker at WrestleMania, that makes sense to me. Brock Lesnar never did. yes, we found out that Undertaker wanted Brock Lesnar to beat him for the streak, but even still, as a booking standpoint, as going forward into the future, it should have been the likes of a Bray Wyatt, someone who could build on that over a career. Brock Lesnar already had a massive career. Brock Lesnar did not need to be the Undertaker at WrestleMania. But I suppose it's just another one thing to add to Brock Lesnar's obviously Hall of Fame career. But anyway, the match against Bray, poor, slow, boring. Got some good spots. You know, Bray looked good against Taker. Taker not so much. And obviously where we get that picture where he does the thing where he flips over and does the walk, like the crab walk, and then Undertaker sits up and they're both like that on each other. That is a class picture. So for me, Bray Wyatt should have really gone over in this match, especially even after the streak, because it was the first match after the streak, so the streak's already broken, so Undertaker doesn't need the win here. Bray did need the win. But besides the fact of Bray not winning, like, the match itself wasn't the best. Undertaker still didn't seem like the Undertaker that we've known for years, that's put on brilliant matches at WrestleMania. Obviously the one before was Brock Lesnar, and this one, Bray Wyatt, two back-to-back matches that would really live up to what you'd expect from Undertaker at WrestleMania. Speaking of which, number 16 is Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 30. The first time I've actually rewatched this match since it happened. I remember it happening, I was fuming, I was just fed up, I was like, what the hell have they done, and it was before the main event as well, when Daniel Bryan faced Randy Orton and Batista, at WrestleMania in the Triple Threat, and then he goes and wins the belt, and they've done the whole build up to all that, and I didn't care, I wasn't asked, I wasn't bothered Daniel Bryan won, I wasn't bothered that Batista, Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan had a good match. I wasn't bothered, like, that match was a blur to me, because I was fuming that they dare have Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker. I am a fan of Brock Lesnar. I probably criticise him more than I should. But hey, it's Brock Lesnar. He's not bothered. But this match is just like, Undertaker clearly got concussed in this match early on. He didn't seem to know where he was, what he was doing. To be able to kick out of two F5s before finally getting the third one was actually quite impressive. And I think this now, when you look back and you watch it, knowing obviously that he did suffer a concussion, it's probably why he spends this portion of the match where he spends like 6-7 minutes on his back. So he's putting Brock in the Hell's Gate, and then he gets dropped, and then he puts him in it again, and then he gets dropped again, and then Brock puts him in the Kimura, and then Undertaker puts him in like a leg lock style Kimura, an arm lock style Kimura himself, and he spent a good 7-8 minutes just on the ground, and I think he's just trying to gather his bearings. But the match was slow. It starts fast paced for about 2 minutes, and then it slowed right down. And to be honest with you, the match lasts probably about 25 to 30 minutes, and it probably could have all been done in about 12 to 15, and it'd have been a much better match. Obviously it's higher than a lot of matches, mainly for the shock factor. It was all anyone talked about, like Paul Heyman especially, but it was all anyone talked about for ages. It was a big shock. Brock Lesnar ended the streak, 21-1, and like, that's what we heard for ages out of Paul Heyman's mouth, and loads of people were fuming. You obviously got that famous fella's face with the picture with his eyes at Mania over his glasses. But the match itself was not good, and it wasn't, and it's a shame really, because Brock Lesnar and Undertaker have had some really good matches. They had some really good matches before, and they had some good matches after as well, and I feel like that is probably one of the worst matches they've had, obviously due to the concussion, but I just don't think Undertaker was up to the shape and standard that he needed to be anyway going into that match. Number 15, Diesel, WrestleMania 12, decent match. Not a massive fan of Diesel, Kevin Nash, to be honest. I mean, he's a nice dude, I've met him, he's good, I like the NWO. I think he's very limited in what he does, but I mean, suppose he does it well. So, we had Diesel manhandle Undertaker for a good portion of the match, which is fair dues. Like, he's the bigger guy, and it was a good, solid match. But like there's parts in it that just annoyed me, like Diesel hits a jackknife powerbomb and then goes to the crowd and he's like, "Whoa, look at me!" And it's like, just cover him. You've just hit your finisher. So then he does that twice. Like it's not even just once. He does it twice where he hits a jackknife and then he turns. Like the first time he turns and walks off and then does something else, and then the second time he turns and then he goes around the ring and then he goes down and covers for the pin. It's like, mate, if you'd done that 5 minutes ago, you'd have won the match. And this was before they were making the streak a big thing. So I mean, you can't even say it's just because of that, because it was like, oh yeah, Undertaker's, so many, at WrestleMania, but it wasn't like a big thing of, oh, it's the streak, oh, it's the streak. They only started hammering that in later. So good match, like I did enjoy it, and it is one I probably will watch again. There's not many on this list so far that I would, and that is one I would watch again. Number 14, only just scraping the Diesel one, is Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. And probably the only reason why it does scrape it is because it's in a Hell in a Cell, and it was a pretty decent Hell in a Cell. You don't expect a lot with Shane McMahon. He's not a wrestler. And if you've watched one Shane McMahon match, you've probably seen them all. But there's something I like about the fact that he's just a daredevil. He's willing to put himself through the punishments and the pain and stuff for the fans' enjoyments when really doesn't need to. One of my favourite matches, Shane McMahon's, is the ambulance match with Kane, and that gets crapped on a lot. But like this Hell in a Cell match is better than what I remember, because the only thing I did remember before I rewatched it was obviously the jump off the top, where he goes to jump onto the Undertaker, and Undertaker moves and he goes through the announce table, and then you see Undertaker's face and he's like, oh my god, he's looking at him just to go, can't believe you actually did that. But obviously we get the coast to coast inside the ring as well with the bin and stuff. Like, you get your standard Shane McMahon spots in this match, but obviously I just think it is a lot better than a lot of these on there. But it's also like, yes, he done the dive off the top of the shell, but people are still talking about it now. And it's like with the Brock Lesnar one, the reason why the Brock Lesnar one is a lot higher than probably I would originally put it is because of the shock factor. Like, obviously, if it had been Undertaker that had gone over, it would have been further up, because it's not memorable. It was just a poor match, but because of the shock factor, it's higher up. Same with this. Like, it's not the best match on here, obviously, but it's not the worst. And the reason why it's higher up than probably a lot of people do put it is because, like, you do it is a spot. It's like a spot match, isn't it? Undertaker batters him for the most part. But it is decent. Like, the problem with it, I found, is we didn't need it. We did not need that match. There was no point to it, really. They give you a little crappy stipulations for, and if Undertaker loses, never WrestleMania again, blah blah, load of crap. No one cares. There was no need for this match, but we still get a really memorable moment or two out of it. Number 13, Mark Henry, WrestleMania 22. Now, if I'd have just gone through this and ranked them based on what I remember, Mark Henry in the casket match would not be in the top 20, I wouldn't say, because for me it wasn't memorable. But I've never been a big Mark Henry fan. I never really enjoyed him in early years, and never enjoyed him in the Nation. I wasn't a big fan of Nation and Domination, to be honest with you. And his whole sexual chocolate thing was just weird, and I don't know, I wasn't a fan of his. I just couldn't take to him. Even then when they put him with what's his name, Teddy Long, wasn't really a fan. It wasn't until they started doing the Hall of Pain. Now, when they first done it, I'd already made me mind up on him, and I was like, I'm not a fan. Then as it come into it, and he'd give you more of a story, and the way he was taking out the big fellas and that, like, he actually done really well. And even when he was world champ, I actually enjoyed his world championship reign. So, like, this was around that time, the House of Pain, I was going to say that, jump around, the Hall of Pain that he was doing. And it was a good match. Like, Henry dominated at the beginning, which is what you'd expect, because they're doing a whole thing about him being the world's strongest man. And then he kept going on about, Undertaker hasn't taken him off his feet. And I can imagine years ago when I first watched this, I was probably like, oh yeah, boring this, he hasn't taken him off his feet. But watching it now, and you can see the story in the building, and to when he eventually then does knock him down, it's a big thing. And it should be as well. Mark Henry's a big dude. And, and the building into this, this Hall of Pain, this world's strongest man, and he was thrown around Undertaker early minutes in the match, and it didn't look out of place. You know, and the fact obviously we get that spot where Undertaker just launches himself over the casket onto Mark Henry was brilliant. But all in all, it was a good match. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And it's definitely one that I'm glad I rewatched in this, because I would never have rated it as high as I did if I didn't rewatch it. Mainly based on the fact that I didn't like Mark a long time ago, and obviously the fact of when you're watching back to back as well, you can go, oh, this one's better than that one. This one, like, because I'm finding it order. Like, I do think this is actually a better match than what I remember originally, and it's one I will go back and watch again. Number 12, Kane at WrestleMania 15, really good match. You know, the first time they faced each other in a ring, and they've done the whole build up. The storyline was good. You know, Undertaker didn't want to face him, and then eventually he agreed to face him at WrestleMania. Kept Kane strong in this match as well, because obviously Kane had only just debuted recently, and he wanted to make him like a Taker-esque. So obviously they're both of them doing tombstones and stuff. But I like the fact that even though they were still letting Undertaker go over against Kane, even though Kane was the one that was coming up and they were trying to build something with it, that they still put Kane over massively by having him take 3 tombstones before he'd been pinned, which I think this was the first time. I think that's what they said on commentary. I've never seen anyone kick out of the tombstone before, and then he kicks out of it like twice before he gets the third one. So it was a good match. I enjoyed it. I remember it being good at the time, and it's still good now. I still enjoy it now. It's a lot better than the one they did at WrestleMania 20, that's for sure. Number 11, Ric Flair, WrestleMania 18. I was like that between this one and the Triple H Mania 17, because they're both really good matches, and it's hard to pick between them two for me, I suppose. But, like, you know, we had the usual Ric Flair bleeds and stuff like that, but it was a good match. It was just a shame that we had Arn Anderson involve himself in it. Like, anytime people involve themselves in a match, for me, that they don't need to, and it just spoils it a bit. So that spoils it a little bit for me. And obviously I've got Triple H is number 10, so top 10, finally getting into the top 10. So Triple H at WrestleMania 17's number 10, and the reason why I put this above the Ric Flair one is obviously for the memorable moments where he drops him off the scaffolding, which they were like, when I rewatched it, I had it on quite loud, and obviously as he drops him in the crowd off the scaffolding, like, oh my god, it sounds like concrete, and the mattress goes burp. So as he drops in, the mattress comes off, and you're like, oh my god. And then the thing Undertaker jumps onto it, and he's like, and he's still sticking with it, and he's like, oh, the concrete, and it's like, oh my god, just say crash mats, or don't mention it at all. And then they do a different camera angle, and on the different camera angle you can see it worse. But I mean, that's just a little negative. I mean, it's a good spot, it's a memorable spot. It's just now you're watching it, you can see the camera angles, and you're like, oh my god, that's nothing like concrete, mate. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Triple H and Undertaker had some great matches over the years, especially at WrestleMania. You know, it was the only opponent he faced 3 times. This is the worst of the bunch, if you like, because it's the lowest rated, but it's still a really good match. All these, I'd probably say from 13 down, I'd rewatch again. So, yeah, top 10. So we got Triple H number 10, WrestleMania 17. Randy Orton, number 9, WrestleMania 21. Sorry, just checking my notes. WrestleMania 21, really good match. This is the first time actually going into WrestleMania with the Undertaker streak on the line that I actually wanted the other person to win. I was a massive Randy fan. I bought into the whole Legend Killer gimmick. I loved it. I thought it was great, and I actually thought, put Randy over, do it, put him over. And it probably would have been too early to put him over. But anyway, after this match at WrestleMania, they then go on and have so many good matches anyway, where Randy gets put over a lot. So it's not the worst that Randy didn't actually win at WrestleMania, and it probably was too early for him to win. But nevertheless, really good match, good storytelling in the match. Obviously Bob inserted himself, which is a little bit annoying, but it made sense because then they used it then further down the line. You know, he attacks him with the cast. You know, that broken wrist he's had forever and a day. But good match, good solid match, Randy Orton and Undertaker. Number 8 is AJ Styles, WrestleMania 36, his last match, his cinematic Boneyard match. WWE don't really do a lot of cinematic. They don't touch that much on it. And the Bray Wyatt, I think, was it Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy? Was it they done? Ultimate, whatever it was called, deletion or whatever they did, for the watered down Woken Hardy. That was not the best, so it's not surprising that they didn't really do a lot of cinematic after that. But this was really good, and obviously we get Undertaker turning up on his bike, which was brilliant. We hadn't seen that in a good while, with his bandana on and stuff, and then he takes him out and he ends up burying him, and then you get that AJ Styles' glove up at the end. It's a really good, really fun match, and I'm glad that they done that as his last match and not the Roman Reigns one. Top 10 for me. I'm not sure if a lot of people will put it top 10, but for me it's top 10. Like, I'll go rewatch that a couple of times, I think. Number 7, Batista, WrestleMania 23 for the World Heavyweight title. Now, Batista for me is a bit of up and down. Like, at the beginning, when he was in Evolution, before Evolution he was crap. And in Evolution he was starting to build him, wasn't overly fussed on him. And then obviously when Evolution took off, it was like, oh yeah, he's like an also there sort of thing. You could see a potential to be something, but it was bubbling for ages. And then obviously when they done the Evolution turn and everything else, and then when he went and beat Triple H at WrestleMania for the world title, and then they just went on, and he just had a great couple of years, and this is in them great couple of years. Like, they've done well to get him at this point. And that was point then when he turned him heel and he's sitting there and he's bald and he's whinging and this, that, I'm WWE champion, and he was whinging, I quit and all that. That was just horrific. But he had a good chunk of years where he did some great matches with Undertaker, Triple H, Edge, so many good stuff in there, and I'm glad this match was in there because it was a really good match. It was a good, strong match, and I'm glad they faced at Mania. Number 6, I don't know if everyone's going to agree with this one, but Triple H WrestleMania 27, the was it no holds barred match that they had? It was good. It was a lot better than the one that they had previous. It's better than most matches on here, and the reason why I rank it above the Batista one is because I think there's more story involved. It's a bit better, the story that it's trying to tell. That it was just after he'd retired Shawn Michaels and stuff like that, and I like the fact that he tapped them out at the Hell's Gate. But even before that, the amount of reversals that we had for finishes, and even the amount of kickouts for finishes, pedigree kick out, tombstone kick out, chokeslam to kick out. Triple H even hits him with a tombstone at one point. But it was a really good, solid match, and again, it's one that I will go back and watch again. Number 4. Missed out number 5. Number 5, I was going to miss out number 5. CM Punk. I'm really glad I rewatched this because I don't remember this match being as good as it was. I don't know why. I think I've only watched it once when it actually happened, and I don't know whether it was because I was annoyed that they took the belt off CM Punk like everyone was, so that we could have Rock face John Cena too. And then they give him Undertaker, and it was sort of like, oh yeah, he's facing Undertaker at WrestleMania, and it was before the streak had ended as well, so it was like, oh yeah, well, he's clearly going to lose, so it doesn't really matter, I'm not really bothered. But I'm glad I rewatched it. Such a good match. It's just like the end alone for me is just brilliant. Like, he hits a GTS. As he hits this GTS, Undertaker stumbles back into the ropes, comes off and picks him up and tombstones him, gets a 2 count, and then he picks him up and goes for the tombstone. He reverses it, he goes for a GTS, he reverses it, and he reverses it again, goes for a GTS, and then he goes again and then he tombstones him to go from like a GTS to a tombstone. Because like completely different moves, but it flowed really well, and it was a really good finish. The match itself was good as well. A lot back and forth between the two of them. We got the elbow drop off the top rope onto the announce table. It was a shame the table didn't break, but it was still really good. We had Paul Heyman passing CM Punk the urn so he could knock Taker on the head when he was doing the last ride. Just a little bits like that, but it was really good. A lot better, a lot better than what I remember. So again, like the Mark Henry one, if I hadn't rewatched it, it'd have been a lot higher up. Definitely wouldn't have been top 10. Number 4, get it this time. Number 4, Edge, WrestleMania 24. really good match. Like Edge is brilliant, so good, and he was on top of his game at this point as well. This is for the world title. Such a good match, and it was just like, it was unbelievable the amount of times like Edge could just reverse him and stuff. It was fast paced and it was good, solid match. One of Edge's best matches, definitely one of Undertaker's best matches, and it definitely one that people should watch. If you haven't watched it, or if you haven't watched it for a while, go back and rewatch it. It just shows you like Edge, especially in the Rated R era, at the top of his game. We even had the Edge heads, if you remember the Edge heads, Hawkins and Ryder. They ran out and tried to get involved, and one jumped up on the apron and he chokeslams one onto the other one while he's standing up. Like, ridiculous, but nevertheless, really good match. Number 3, you probably guessed this one. I'd imagine number 3 is the same for everyone. Triple H. The last time he faced WrestleMania 28 in the Hell in the Cell with Shawn Michaels as the special referee. Probably one of the best Hell in the Cell matches ever. One of the best storytelling matches ever as well. Like the storytelling in this match alone, even if you take out the beforehand, like the storytelling in the match is so good. Like, you've got Triple H absolutely annihilating the Undertaker at one point with the steel chair, and then he's like, "That's a Shawn. You want to end this streak that bad, then just end the match. He can't physically compete anymore." So then Shawn's like, "Oh, do I, don't I?" And then he goes over to the Undertaker, and Undertaker's like, "Don't you dare call off this match," and like barely even get himself up. So then he's leveling him again, and he's like, "If you don't end it, I will." And then Shawn's like, so much storytelling is really, really good. And he's turned around, and he's like, "Don't end the match." And then obviously he goes to hit him with the sledgehammer, hit him in the back of the head with the sledgehammer while he's on the floor, and Shawn pulls it away, and then they have their little back and forth, and then obviously he goes to call the match off. Undertaker puts him in the Hell's Gate, and then later on Shawn then sweet chins him as a return into a pedigree. He still only gets the 2 count. Just so much storytelling. Like, Shawn is a main part of the storytelling, but Triple H and Undertaker, like, they're so good storytellers in the ring when they're given the opportunity. Triple H is one of the best at it. And the whole match as a whole was fantastic. And then obviously we get the end where the 3 of them are up, and it's supposed to be the last time they ever have that generation in the ring together, which unfortunately, because of the Saudi Arabia match, obviously it didn't end up being, which is a shame, because that was such a good match and such a good picture at the end. Number 2, now 1 and 2 for a lot of people is probably the same. You probably switch and change, which can go where. And for me, it's probably the first time I've actually rated them against each other. Because normally I just count them as the same. I go, oh yeah, the 2 matches against Shawn Michaels, 25 and 26, I put on same bar. And I thought, I can't end my first ever video doing a rankings and a ratings and going, oh yeah, numbers 1 and 2 are the same. Like, who does that? So anyway, I went back and watched all the matches, but I watched these specifically back to back, and I made notes and I compared, and I tried to do everything I could to see just which one was better. And so at number 2, I don't know if you'll agree, but for number 2, WrestleMania 25 comes in at number 2 against Shawn Michaels. It was great. We had the good versus bad. Shawn come out and he was like the Jesus, the God, with all of his white, and he come out like that, and Undertaker's the bad one, and he comes out all in dark, and that really good moves, really good match. It was a good solid match. It was brilliant. It wasn't supposed to be as long as it was, and they made it longer. It should have been the main event. It was that good. But obviously, if you're looking down, Undertaker's dive to the outside, where obviously the cameraman doesn't catch him when he's supposed to, and he lands on literally the top of his head. That it's a botch, whichever way you look at it. Whose ever fault it was, there's a botch there, and I did write it down. I can't remember now. There was another botch in the match as well. Only slight, but 2 botches in the match, and there wasn't any in the other one. Plus, I think the storytelling in the other one is better than the storytelling in the first. But nevertheless, 2 fantastic matches. Really good to watch back to back, to be honest. It hasn't been easy watching. You'd think it'd be dead easy watching 27 matches back to back, especially with the same guy. It's a lot harder than you'd think. So yeah, number 25. WrestleMania 25 comes in at number 2, and number 1, the winner, which is obvious, is WrestleMania 26 versus Shawn Michaels. That match is just brilliant. The storytelling that is unreal. You know, even the build up, like if you look at it all, like Shawn becomes obsessed with the streak. He wants to end the streak. It's a thing. He wants to end it. So then he goes into the Royal Rumble, and his sole purpose is because Undertaker's the champ. I'm going to face Undertaker at WrestleMania, because he asks Undertaker for another match, and Undertaker's like, no, I've beat you, I don't need to face you again. So then he goes in the Rumble, and then when he gets eliminated, there's actually a groan in the crowd. Like, everyone believed he was just going to win the Royal Rumble and go and face on against the Undertaker, and then he starts attacking referees, and then like he throws away the chance with the tag belts with Triple H, and Triple H like, you're just going to throw the X away, you're going to throw your career away, and he's like, well, if I don't beat the Undertaker, then what's the point? I don't have a career. And then he buggers off, and then obviously he turns up at the Elimination Chamber, Sweet chins him, takes the belt off Undertaker. You know, Chris Jericho wins that. So then Undertaker then agrees, oh yeah, I'll face you now that you've cost me my belt. But he says you have to put your career on the line. So I think the whole streak versus career, the fact that there's more on the line with this one than the previous one, the match is in the right position, it's the main event. It goes longer than the previous one, and you know, just like the whole storytelling that they do in the match, and the end for me is fantastic. It's like one of the best endings to a match. I know loads of people talk about the Shawn Michaels sweet chin on Ric Flair being, oh yeah, I love you, boom, but this is just superb. Like, you know, he's battered and he's bruised Shawn to everything he can, and like the pair of them have gone out and they've give everything, and then at one point like Shawn's down and Undertaker's above him, and he's like signaling for, you know, just going to do Tombstone again, and then he just sort of looks at Shawn and takes pity on him, because he's sort of like, well, I'm going to have to end your career if I beat you. So you can see, and he's looking, and he's like taking pity on him, he's like, don't really know what to do. She's like, look, stay down. He goes to him, stay down. And then Shawn's pulling himself up on Taker, using his boots and his pants and that. He's pulling himself up, and he's like, and he's looking all, ooh, a bit sorry for himself, and that, and Undertaker's just looking down on him, like, and you don't see that type of emotion that much with Undertaker, apart from these couple of matches with Shawn and Triple H. And the storytelling, just looking at him, he's like, oh, why didn't you just stay down? And then Shawn does Undertaker's tombstone taunt to him, and Taker's like, what the fuck? And then he slaps him, like, proper slaps him, and Undertaker goes back and goes, oh, right, that's it, picks him up. Not only does he pick him up for the tombstone, he picks him up and he does a jump into that. He jumps and he drives him home to get that pin. So for me, just like the end sequence alone, for that puts it in number 1. So number 1 for me, WrestleMania 26 against Shawn Michaels, streak versus career. So yeah, that's it. That's my first rankings video. That is it. All 27 Undertaker WrestleMania matches ranked from worst to best. So let me know, give me a like if you're still with me. I mean, it's a lot longer than what I thought it was going to be, but it's a lot shorter than it would have been if I'd just read off my sheets. So yeah, if you're still with me, give me a like. Subscribe to my videos if you haven't already, and give me a comment. Let me know, where do you rank your Undertaker matches? Are they a lot similar to mine? Are they completely different to mine? It's fine, I just want to know. Let me see your 27-1 Undertaker matches at WrestleMania, and be sure to keep an eye out for my next rankings video. And if you've got any suggestions for any rankings videos that you'd like me to rank, pop it in the comment section as well. Let me know some suggestions. I'm open to suggestions. Not that I'm always going to do what people have asked for, but obviously the more people that ask, the more likely I'm going to then go and do it. So I really enjoyed this. I'm hoping it takes off. Give me some likes, give me some comments, share it around, let people know, and then I'll be able to do a lot more in the future. So as always, thanks for watching, and check back soon.